Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day is going great. This was supposed to be a double upload last night, but unfortunately I fell asleep. But hey, I wanted to talk more about the Kephrii situation because it's pretty much like the biggest topic of my last two videos. Like literally every single top comment with upvotes is all about Kephrii, and I wanted to continue this discussion with you guys and respond to a lot of your comments. Because although I do think you guys have some valid points, I really want a lot of you to see my perspective more. Because while you might think it's really unfair for him to ask for a tryout, it's really just not that big of a deal. And I'm going to try my best in this video to fully explain that. And also, I do want to update you guys on this. I am going to be doing a full-length interview with Kephrii talking about all this drama, all Overwatch League, what he wants to do with his career, what he thinks in response to all of this stuff. Pretty much like, we're going to cover everything, guys. Whenever he has some time, whenever I have some time, we're going to get together and do that. It will be really soon, hopefully within this week. And I'll be sure, guys, I know a lot of us are pretty heavily invested in this topic, and we love to back our opinions up and argue, which I do too. It's very fun. That's the reason I'm making this video, but let's keep it civil. I disagree with you. You might disagree with me. There's no reason to hate on each other, though. And lastly, if you guys do enjoy my daily content, my double uploads, be sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for more daily Overwatch content. All right, so the first response we're going to take a look at is from Arcane. He said this is how I am seeing it. If the team wanted Kephrii, they would offer him a tryout. He doesn't need to ask for a tryout. Calvin didn't ask for this, he got offered, and so did Dufresne. You don't see anyone on a contenders team asking for a tryout. Kephrii is using his popularity as a way to get ahead of these players, which is unfair. That's my opinion. First and foremost, I want to say thank you, Arcane, for leaving this comment. I respect your opinion, but I do disagree with a lot of it, because you're kind of just stating what you think is true, not what you actually know is true. So starting off with the first thing you said, you think if a team wanted to offer Kephrii, they would just offer him the tryout, and he doesn't need to ask for it. Well, that's not true at all. Matter of fact, almost every single trial done at Overwatch League and Academy levels is because a player or that player's agent reached out to the team and let them know that they were a free agent, sending them their resume and everything that would be involved with that. And that's how most players receive a tryout, unless you're like a superstar and everybody knows you and you're a free agent. Say a team like Runaway or Kong du Panthera, super high level players that everyone knows is good, everyone's going to come after you. But if you're like a pretty solid player but not known as a big superstar, you have to go asking for trials. And then moving on to the second thing you said, Calvin didn't ask for his tryout. He got offered, and so did Dufresne. You absolutely do not know this. So you're assuming right here Calvin didn't ask for his tryout. Now, you don't know that. It's probably true because Calvin has, mentioned he doesn't want to join the league, so he probably didn't ask for a tryout. But for Dufresne, you're actually wrong here because Dufresne was reaching out to a bunch of contenders teams asking if he could play for them. And of course, he also asked Atlanta, which Brad was on, his former coach. And because of that, Brad was like, yes, I want to give you a chance, Dufresne. I want you on our team. We had an unfortunate thing happen with you on Selfless. It's time for you to have another chance. Let's make this a really good run. And he joined Atlanta. Sure, he didn't have to try out, but he did ask. He asked a lot of teams, which I did report this. So you kind of are assuming here, which is fine. I assume on things as well. I'm just giving you my response here. And then moving on to the last thing you said. You don't see anyone on a contenders team asking for a tryout. Again, this is just absolutely false. If you go on Reddit just today, we don't even have to think about it. One of the most upvoted posts is a contenders player posting on Twitter saying, give me tryouts, guys. I'm the best. I did this. I did that. I will pull it up right now for you. This is Little Bo, a player from Eagle Gaming. He is their main support, and he tweeted out, all right, guys, I got top 5 playing solo queue only, and I won contenders last season. Can you guys start trialing me or something? Now, sure, you can definitely say, oh, well, this player, he's earned the right to ask for a tryout. Well, yeah, he has earned the right, but you simply said you don't see any contenders players asking for a tryout, and there's literally one today doing it. And I promise you, almost every single player at Academy or Contenders level is asking every single Overwatch League team for a trial. If they weren't, they would be dumb. It's just that some do it public, some don't. In this case, Little Bo did, and in Kephrii's case, he did. And then the last thing you said is Kephrii is using his popularity as a way to get ahead of these players, which is unfair. That is not unfair. He's using something that he worked for, he gained himself in order to help him move forward. That is in no way, shape, or form unfair. Just like Dufresne, he used his popularity. Calvin, he used his popularity to get that offer. Seagull, he used his popularity to get paid the most in the league. Everybody is going to use what they have. It's human nature, and you have to respect that no matter who the person is. And then, I know you responded to this down below. Don't worry, I'm going to read your second comment saying this. And for anyone who responds saying he is just using it to his advantage, which I just responded with, you said, It's unfair because Contenders players barely have a fan base. Now, this may sound harsh, but whose fault is that? Kephrii worked his way up to get that popularity. He's been playing Overwatch since the start. He's been here for a very long time. He is grinded very hard, and you have to respect that. He literally does 20-hour streams almost every day. That's insanity. He's using what he worked for, just like anybody else in the game would. And Contenders players, they can stream, they can do whatever they need to do to gain their popularity as well. Sure, you could look at it from an unfair perspective. I understand that. But in no way should Kephrii be criticized for that, because anybody in that position would do the same thing. Now again, you're going to disagree with a lot of the things I said to you, just like I disagreed with you. I do respect you responding to my video, and I definitely understand from your perspective why you think these things, and I hope you can understand from my perspective. Again, thank you, Arcane, for the response. The next response is from Zan. Now this one's a little more straightforward and brutal. He said this: the difference is the other guys that skipped Contenders were scouted and offered a tryout. They didn't ask for it like a baby with a silver spoon. The other guys earned it by showing enough for a team to want to pick them up. Kephrii has shown nothing, so asking is out of turn. Now there's a few things wrong with this statement. I'll start off with the very first one. Again, Zan, just like Arcane, you are assuming. You don't know exactly how a lot of these players were scouted. I promise you, there are a lot of players who have asked teams for tryouts before they were ever scouted by them, and then they did some research and they said, okay, we'll give him a chance, and then that player popped off in scrims very hard / trials, and he made it in. It definitely happens. You can't assume that that never has happened, because it definitely has. And then the last part, saying Kephrii has shown nothing, so asking is out of turn. That is not true, which we're going to get into Kephrii's past as a pro player a little bit more later in this video, because there's some other responses that go more in detail about it. But I will say for now, Kephrii has definitely shown something that is enough to ask for a tryout. Again, Zan, I appreciate the response. I understand your perspective. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now, this is the most upvoted response, and it comes from Main Ukraine, and it was kind of a response to what I said in the video about the Calvin and Kephrii analogy I made. He said this: wait, how is Calvin unproven as a pro like Kephrii? Calvin is more proven than Kephrii. First of all, he played on a legit esports team before Contenders and performed well on it. Secondly, he can flex a lot of DPS hit scans besides McCree. He proved his Tracer was up to par, playing in top 20 back when Tracer was meta. He also recently grinded Widow and had some insane clips on Widow. Calvin and Kephrii are in completely different spectrums. Like, can Kephrii play McCree or Tracer as good as Calvin can play Widow or Tracer? Hell no. So I have a lot to respond to this. And again, I appreciate your response, Main Ukraine, but you are leaving a lot of details out of this. Let's start from the top. You said, wait, how is Calvin unproven as a pro like Kephrii? Calvin is more proven than Kephrii. First of all, he played on a legit esports team before Contenders and performed well on it. So I knew this was going to probably end up being a problem for some people watching the video when I said Calvin is unproven as a pro just like Kephrii. Because of course, someone was going to bring up Calvin's past as a pro player. And yes, he did play professionally before. But to say that he is way more proven as a pro than Kephrii is absolute blasphemy. Because if you want to get in depth about their actual pro careers, Kephrii played at a higher level professionally than Calvin ever did. And matter of fact, Kephrii and Calvin were both at the heights of their professional careers at the same exact time. And guess what? Kephrii was actually on the better team. If we go way back to one of the biggest, earliest tournaments in all of Overwatch history, we have the Overwatch Open. This was a $300,000 tournament hosted by E-League, and there was qualifiers to get into this tournament. Kephrii played for Team Liquid in this tournament, and Calvin played for Colorado Clutch in this tournament. Calvin's team, Colorado Clutch, they did okay, not really that good. They only made it past the second round one time, and would usually get knocked out early by a tier 2 or even tier 3 team. As for Kephrii's team, he made it to the semifinals every single tournament and even made it to the finals overall once in these qualifiers. And guys, at the time he was competing against the best teams in the entire North American scene: Cloud9, Fnatic, TSM, NRG, and Luminosity Gaming. And he was beating some of these teams in this tournament, while Colorado Clutch never even came close to getting maps off these teams. So logically and factually, it is clearly impossible to say that Calvin has a higher level of experience when it comes to professional play compared to Kephrii. If you overall look at both of their careers, Kephrii played as a pro for about 4 months, which involved Team Liquid, Elevate, and a couple other teams that weren't so good. But at the height of it, he was competing competing against the best with Team Liquid and winning matches, and he also won some tier 2 tournaments with Elevate. Calvin's pro career was a little bit longer. He played for about 7 months, but he never was on a team that was past the tier 2 scene, and honestly most of his teams were tier 3. The best team he played for, which at their best was tier 2 and considered tier 3 at some times, was Gale Force eSports. But just like Kephrii, Calvin did win some tier 2 tournaments with Gale Force eSports, so they do have the same experience there. Kephrii played on a tier 1 organization in tier 1 competitive play in early Overwatch. And I know a lot of your responses to this will be, oh, well, Kephrii he had better teammates, that's why he did better. Well, sure, it's hard to say whether Kephrii or Calvin was a better player at the time, but what we do know is that Kephrii did get on the better team at that time. It doesn't prove he was better, but it does say something. And also, those 4 months early in Overwatch wasn't the only time Kephrii played professionally, or at a pretty high level. He also recently competed at a Philadelphia Fusion LAN event like 2 weeks ago. And of course, I know a lot of you guys are gonna say, oh, well, this tournament isn't much. Well, let's look at the players. Overall, there's some decent ones. We have Boostio, he's been getting a lot of recognition lately, a Contenders player. We have Far, another Contenders player. He's been getting a lot of recognition too. He won the Widowmaker 1v1 tournament. And to be honest, if you watch this VOD, Kephrii, he outplayed Far. There's also Insomniac, he played in 2 seasons of Contenders. Mower, which is on Kephrii's team, he also played for Florida Academy teams. There's Kark, a coach for Canada. There is some decent talent in this tournament, and it's a LAN event. Kephrii popped off too. You guys see it in the VOD right now. And I can confirm a lot of those players I just listed, like Boostio, Far, Insomniac, and more, they are competing in Overwatch League trials and Academy trials right now. So there's some pretty high level competitive experience there for Kephrii. I never meant in my last video or in this video to turn it into like a Kephrii versus Calvin thing, because they're both just 2 different players, they have 2 different reputations, and they're in completely different situations. But I did use it as an analogy earlier. It might not have been the best analogy, and maybe I shouldn't have used it, but in my head it did make sense, and I feel like I did an okay job at explaining it in the last video, and I feel I broke it down in this video a lot better as well. So hopefully you guys can see where I'm coming from. Obviously, Calvin is great, he's super flexible, and a big problem with Kephrii is that he hasn't been able to prove that he can flex well. And overall, I would say Calvin might have better aim, just in general, but there is a chance Kephrii is a better Widowmaker than him. It's something we haven't seen yet. Kephrii does have incredible aim on that Widow. And again, when it comes down to looking at their overall experience as pros, you can't really say that Calvin is way more proven than Kephrii, because if you look at it factually, it really does seem like Kephrii has proved more. And my point here is that this shouldn't be a popularity competition. It should come down to who actually has the best experience, and is the player just good. And in Kephrii's case, I do feel like he is a really good Widow. I mean, go watch his stream. Go watch some of his YouTube videos against Overwatch League Widowmakers. He plays insane against them. And because of that, I do feel like he should have a chance to trial and maybe be picked up as a specialist Widowmaker player. Anyways, this video's gone on really long and I've only responded to like 3 different comments, but to be fair, a lot of the comments pretty much sum these 3 comments up, and it's a lot of you guys just kind of repeating and saying the same things, which again, I understand this perspective that you guys have makes sense, but hopefully you guys can see my perspective and also understand that this really does make sense as well, and that it honestly really just isn't that big of a deal that Kephrii tweeted out that he wants to get a tryout. So what? Anybody can tweet out that they want to get a tryout. It doesn't make somebody scummier or less of a genuine person. He literally just wants to try and prove himself, and he thought that'd be a good way to get their attention. And well, look at everybody talking about him and talking about DC. It's probably got their attention. One thing I will say is though, I had a lot of fun making this video, responding to you guys. I feel like it is a good topic to discuss, and that's why I wanted to do this. So for everybody that watched this video, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? But remember, keep it civil. No need to go at each other's necks. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay updated on anything and everything Overwatch League, be sure to click that red subscription box. And now, guys, I'm out of here. Peace.